Rest of everything.
How about that cigar? Live at TPE 21. We are here with Steve Saka, Dunbarton Tobacco Trust. Steve,
Yes.
life is good.
Well, as I just told you, everything sucks except sales. Sales are fantastic. Everything else has been a pain in the ass.
So we're on day 2 TPE. Day 1 for us was a little rough, but how was day 1 and so far day 2 for you?
Well, day 1, like for example, our booth didn't get delivered on the 10th, didn't get delivered on the 11th. The crap we have here got delivered like 45 minutes before the show opened. So
you little scramble.
Yeah, a little bit of a scramble, but it's been good. No, I mean, look, TPE is a unique show for us. The bulk of the retailers that come to TPE own discount tobacco outlets. They own head shops that have humidors and cases in them. They're more of an alternative kind of buyer. They're not really our customer base. So for us, the customers that are regular brick and mortar kind of class A, class B type retailers, the ones that are here are our customers, but there's very few of them because the guys that are the typical TPE buyer, they're looking for brand names that are really super well known, like Cohiba, Romeo Julieta, or they're looking for inexpensive bundle product. You know what I mean? To put in their shop at something between $4 and $6. And well, I'm neither of those two things. So for us, it's a very limited amount of sales that could even be done here, but we know that coming. I just have this attitude that if 50 of my accounts come and they're willing to take the time and spend the money, the least I can do is say thank you, appreciate the business. You know what I mean? So even though maybe on a P&L it doesn't exactly make sense, in the end it makes sense from a relationship point of view. So I'm here at TPE. I've noticed that there's very few principals here at TPE, but I think that's a mistake. I think you should always take the opportunity to say thanks when you can say thanks.
Yeah, and so this being our first time at this trade show, we were kind of also surprised at the lack of what a lot of consumers would call big players. And I agree with you that maybe they're missing out on some opportunities. What
part of it is that, look, sales have been very strong for most of the companies this year, and they don't really have anything to even do a discount, or like we're doing no deals, we're doing no discounts. We're here, but we're not. There's no benefit to writing an order with us here at the trade show than there would have been writing an order with us last week or writing an order with us next week. And the reason why we decided to do that was for selfish reasons. If we're selling everything, why give a discount on it? But for other reasons, if I have a retailer who placed an order with me 6 weeks ago for whatever, Mickey, Rita, Ancho Largos, and he ordered 12 boxes and I've only been able to send him 6, why should some guy that places an order for a box of Mickey, Rita, Ancho Largos today get it at a lower price than the guy who bought it, 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, and is waiting? So it just seems offensive to me to offer a deal. If I was 100% caught up, then it would be a different story. But it just seems rude to me to give this customer a better deal than that customer who's a loyal, great customer. So
no, I like that, and that's a good way to think about it. So as far as the customer base, like you said, we're not just dealing with what a lot of us know as a brick and mortar premium cigar shop. We're dealing with people that sell a lot of different kinds of products. Are you noticing any people who do maybe have head shops or smoke shops, things like that are putting more time or floor space into premium cigars these days?
They are. And I'm also noticing some of these guys coming and asking for certain brands, like the brands that are starting to see some pull, like Sober Mesa Brulee or Umbagog. We've gotten a lot more inquiries from them than I would have expected. Okay. So that's a little bit of a change. Look, it's the melding of two different businesses. I know that the hardcore cigar guys, they kind of poo-poo it. I don't. They're a product. We're a product. Consumers are adults. They get to decide what they want to do, what they don't want to do. I'm not going to put my personal viewpoint as a reason. as to why, oh, well, that's the weed show. That just seems crazy and absurd to me. You know what I mean? And honestly, I would hope in some sort of future that maybe we could get a little bit of the latitude that those guys are getting, because as we become more illegal, they become more legal, which is mind numbing to me. But I think it's an interesting show, and I think there's value in it. But I also have always had a different perspective on trade shows. I don't look at trade shows as a way to get a discount or a deal or a sale. It's when you have the chance to actually talk to real people and hear what's really working and what's not working, and gives you the ability to talk to another retailer that maybe has an idea of something that worked for him that isn't working for you. The networking part of it for me is what the big benefit is, and I think that's a mistake that most trade shows make, is that they make it all about the deals and the discounts, and that's the only reason you should go. And I would say that the smart retailers, they don't think in those terms, because we all know the deals and discounts come regardless. You don't have to attend the trade shows for that to happen. And so, and you see it.
So what do you see because we've heard from a lot of people that, and we feel the same way about it, that it does, there is a good feeling about being back together, kind of as a cigar community again. So what do you see in relations to that, and how does it feel for you personally?
Look, it's hard to not say that it's good. I mean, we're in a relationship oriented business. Part of cigars is camaraderie. We all know that. It's been a very peculiar year. Now, I'm a little bit of a anachronism. I really have been traveling since October. I mean, I've already been to Nicaragua 5 times this year. So I kind of got out of my shell much earlier than a lot of other people. But it is refreshing to be able to see people again. And, I mean, there's literally some people that are here that I haven't seen in some of them almost 2 years. You know what I mean? So that part's good. I mean, and again, I think it's good for our business. And I think also, if you're a brick and mortar retailer and your focus is price, you might as well just close the doors now. You're losing. The big box guys are always going to kick your ass. You're not in the same business. You have to understand that you have to provide that consumer an extra value add. You give them something that the big box guys can't. So if you're all worried about Cigar International pricing and JR pricing, which for me is good, so I'm good on that part. But as a general whole, you got a problem, because there's a lot of brick and mortar operators that are growing exponentially because they understand that the business is about more than just the price on one cigar compared to another cigar. And you have to do, when you're a brick and mortar retailer, be more of a tobacconist and be less of a retailer.
I like that, putting it that way, because and I know a lot of our viewers have the same experience, where I will drive 15-20 minutes farther to a different shop and pay even 50 cents more for a cigar if the experience and the relationship is better with the place.
Think about it. You go to a restaurant, the food is amazing, the service sucks. Do you go back to that restaurant?
No.
The restaurant, the food's good, you like the food, the service is great, you go back to that restaurant over and over and over again. Like I said, the retailers that are providing customer service, they're kicking ass. The ones that are just sitting on their asses waiting for a sale, waiting for the guy to come in, pick it up off the shelf, walk out the door with it, they're all slowly withering away. And they're going to continue to wither away because they're not providing anything extra for their consumer. And the thing is, where they have disadvantages in scale and efficiency and volume, they also have advantages because they get one-on-one interaction. They have the ability to have a conversation. They have the ability to form a relationship. They have the ability to, because look, when you look at a catalog and you read the 50 pages, on what page does it say this cigar was better than the one on page 13? No, every page says this is the most amazing cigar ever. So how are you as a consumer, when you look at that, supposed to separate the wheat from the chaff? And that's what a good tobacconist does for you. He ends up ultimately learning what you like to smoke, what you prefer, and then being able to recommend to you, oh, well, Joe, this is something I think you ought to try. You know what I mean? And there's a real value to that. I think there's a lot of people that buy a lot of cigars because of price to find out they kind of wish they hadn't bought them.
And with core lines right now, we're coming out of the craziness of 2020, and with core lines, are you noticing any trends as far as performance goes?
I mean, we were up 90% last year. We're up 70% this year. So I don't think we're a good comparison. So for me, everything is growing crazy, and even my worst brand is still up 27%.
Are you as far as the factory stuff down in Nicaragua, how is everything going? Because keeping up with demand can't be easy. So how is everything going as far as keeping up with demand?
Currently struggling is not on tobacco, and I'm not struggling on production. Where I'm really struggling is on all the ancillary stuff: boxes, bands, UPC codes, cello tubes, ribbon, hinges for the box, gold powder for the band maker. All these little logistical things, they've been just a total disaster. I've spent more time in the last 9 months being like a sorcerer buyer on crap that I normally would never even have to think about. You know what I mean? Because it's just the supply chain internationally has been so disrupted that it's just now starting to kind of come back. And at the same time, we have an industry where sales are fantastic because you had all these guys at home. That guy that smoked 2 to 3 cigars a week, trying to squeeze them in between his wife and church and his 2 kids in school and their extracurricular activities and family commitments. Well, last year he had all the free time in the world. And if he didn't lose his job, he had more free money than he's ever had, right? I mean, he was at home. He's on his notebook. He's on his tablet. He does 4 Zooms a day. He does his reports whenever he wants, but he's just in his sweatshirt and his jeans on his back deck. And now he can smoke 2, 3 cigars a day. And he had more free money because he wasn't spending any money on anything. There was nothing to spend money on. So I do wonder what'll happen when everybody does start to go back to work, because that guy ain't going to be able to have the time in the day to smoke 2 to 3 cigars.
Yeah, it's been, and I'm one of those examples. I've my cigar consumption's gone up a lot. I know a lot of other guys that have been the same way, and we've talked to probably 5 or 6 other people who had the same comment, that it's not the tobacco, it's the boxes and the bands.
Other stuff. Yeah. Tobacco issue. We had a really rough crop this year in Nicaragua, Chile and Esteli. We ended up starting 4 weeks late for the first planting because of late rainy season extended too long. And then regretfully about 4 weeks ago, we had a torrential monsoon-like rainstorm that was really about 6 weeks earlier than we should have seen like rain like that. So we had a very late start to the growing season. We had a very abrupt ending to the second growing season, and we lost directly about 20 to 25% of the crop in the field. And then all the rest of it, we've been harvesting like mad because the tobacco is so waterlogged that it's actually dying in the field. So we've lost 25% there, but we're not doing the normal primings that we would do because we're trying to strip the tobacco off as quickly as we can, because if we leave it on the stalks, it's all going to die. And regardless of what manufacturers tell you about primings, the reason why we prime tobacco is we make more money. By leaving the tobacco on the plant longer, it ends up having heavier weight. The more weight, the more money as a farmer you ultimately make. So the priming system makes sense for him. And it also allows you to stage your curing barn time, because you have crops coming into the barn and you have crops coming out of the barn between those early primings and those late primings. But right now, we're pulling everything. So what's ending up happening is the tobacco is never going to get to full weight. So we're going to lose there. And now we have the barns so over jammed with tobacco that we're now wondering, how is this all going to cure? Because we're not getting as much space in the barns as we normally would like to have in the barns. So the 2020-21 Nicaraguan Esteli crop is a rough crop.
And those effects will probably be felt
2 to 3 years from now.
3 years, yeah. And
it can be made up for. That's the thing. You know, when we have next season, if we can make up for it next season, it'll be fine. So, I mean, it isn't like I'm not telling everyone out there to go out and rush and buy their favorite Nicaraguan cigar. Tobacco's disappearing. It's not the case. But these are the problems that we're currently dealing with. And look, they're problems. Got a viewer question.
Oh yeah.
Rob Swap says, "Hey Steve, I had my first Super Mesa the other day. I found it millions of miles. Struggled to find any complexity. Can you describe the flavor profile you meant to create?" So Sober Mesa is a medium-bodied blend. It's definitely not a potent blend. It's meant to be more of a balanced, elegant, kind of nuanced cigar. So it really depends on what you smoke. I would not recommend Sober Mesa as a brand for the guy to try that tends to smoke on the heavier side of the spectrum. If you tend to primarily smoke a lot of Nicaraguan cigars, you tend to smoke a lot of heavier, medium full to full bodied cigars, you're probably going to find Sober Mesa to not really give you something for your palate. I think you're going to find it a little underwhelming. Now, if you're the guy that is more into the medium segment, then I think you were going to find it really exceptional for you for the most part. And I don't know for the consumer, you could be in the medium body and still not like. I mean, not all cigars are for all people, but I would recommend. You know, that's the thing with my brands. It's good and it's bad. Everything I make is wildly different. So the guy that loves Sober Mesa Brulee may absolutely hate a Tricky Traca. The guy that loves a Tricky Traca may never want to smoke a Sober Mesa. And I try to make different cigars at different strength levels and different complexities and different flavor profiles, understanding that no one thing is right for everybody, but hoping that somewhere in that portfolio, they'll find something that sings to them. So like we were commenting about this before we got on the camera. So like Muestra de Saka, if you Sober Mesa doesn't make you don't like it, I would not buy a Muestra de Saka Exclusiva. It's too mild. I would look more towards like a Naka Tamale, or I would look towards an Unstolen Valor. That's something that may be something that'll float your boat. So it's really a question of kind of going through the portfolio and figuring out what works best for you. I think it's highly unlikely. I don't expect the consumer to like everything. It's just an unrealistic expectation. What I do hope is that when they smoke it, it draws well, it burns well, it's consistent, it gives what it's supposed to give. So that way the consumer can make the judgment, is this for me or is it not for me? You know, that I hope. And I also hope that there's never anything that someone would smoke that would turn them off, where they'll say, hey, I smoked Sober Mesa and it really wasn't for me. I didn't find the complexity, I didn't find the nuance, I found it a little dull. I hope that that experience is so negative that it prevents them from maybe trying an umbagog or trying a sin compromiso. So, but yes.
And are you, as far as the whole portfolio, you know, right now, are there any spots in the portfolio that you, when you look at it with your own point of view, do you see any spots where you're looking to maybe put something in there?
So there's two places that are missing. The one thing that I don't currently have in the portfolio is I don't really have any sort of core product that serves that pepper bomb customer. You know what I mean? I have a lot of strong cigars, but even my strong cigars, they're always smooth. You know, so smoothness for me is a very big component. So I don't really have anything that's like super bitey. Unstolen Valor is probably the closest to bitey that I have. But that isn't even a blend that I made. That was a blend that Raul Diesla made. So that's a hole. And then I have another hole that you don't even know is a hole, but you'll know it's a hole when we get to PCA, hopefully. I have another whole product category that nobody's making at all that I'm hoping to launch this year, but I don't want to. It's going to be called Stillwell Star. I'm happy to share the name, but I don't really even want to tell anybody about the product because it's such a different, unique idea. I want to make sure I'm first.
No, that's great, and we appreciate hearing new news. I know the viewers love getting little tidbits of info about stuff that's coming down the road, and we know that PCA being sort of the smaller trade show, and or TPE being the smaller trade show, and then coming up in July, PCA. Typically, people do like to, you know, give some little tidbits at PCA as well. We're excited that you've got stuff in the fire, you know, working on it, and thanks very much for spending time with us today.
My pleasure, always.
So viewers, as always, guys, thank you so much for watching all of our videos here, coverage at TPE. We'll have more coming up, so stay with us, guys. Thanks for watching.